in January for spring semester. Obviously that depends on everything that happens, but that gives us, we have about 15,000 objects to move by hand between now and then get exhibits set up and all of that. So got a lot of behind the scenes things to do, but we are very, very, very excited about it. It's pretty awesome.
I know that was a long time coming for the folks on Wake, and the conversations have been going on for years. So it's exciting, although we could probably use the residence halls for this semester.
I bet. I bet. Well, we had some of our things stored in the barn before this building was some like new exhibit cases and things like that. And they were like, could you please get that out of there? We got to put furniture in there.
So that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I look forward to the time in which I can have you all come see it.
Do you have you have meeting space at all? And could you host a board meeting there where we can actually meet together?
I bet we maybe could.
A couple minutes after 2. Ceci, how are we doing?
The only one, I think we're all here because Jeff just joined us.
Awesome. So I guess I want to call the August 2020 meeting of the Forsyth County Tourism Development Authority to order, and would ask for attendance and quorum check.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Our first order of business, hopefully you all got the packet from Ceci to review the meeting minutes from our July meeting. And if there are no adjustments to that, I will look for an approval to accept those meeting minutes. I have a motion. I got a motion from Rob. Second from Andy. All in favor to accept, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All right, so accepted. Next slide, I guess, Ceci.
Yes.
I just want to kind of open up the meeting and just express the continued challenges that we have. Oh, and I guess we should probably announce that we're being live streamed, correct?
That is correct. The city is live streaming it, so this is public.
Okay, so best behavior. So, you know, our industry continues to experience challenges in the travel, meeting, and gathering restrictions that are placed upon us. We began the year hopeful that we got past March, April, May, and June of last year, that we would start to see an uptick in the fall. We were hopeful to see a return to guests, and it's important to return to meaningful work, paychecks for those people that work in our industry. Unfortunately, that rebound has not been as quick as we had hoped. So last week, the Finance Committee met, and I think several of the board members were able to join. It was a challenging meeting. It's a stressful topic. I appreciate everybody's participation in that discussion. Appreciate Rich and his team. Our hope is that the team at Visit Winston-Salem is spending their energy marketing Winston-Salem and Forsyth County as a wonderful place to come visit, a wonderful place to meet and travel to and convene. Unfortunately, we have to have the conversation that talks about what we really think is happening. Our budget was hopeful, yet conservative. So what came out of our finance meeting is not the need for a motion, because we've approved our budget, but a conversation and a direction for Rich as he brings forth concerns is to take action sooner as we have opportunity. We know last year we were almost done with our fiscal responsibilities when the pandemic hit. Now, as we still have 10 months left in the year, unfortunately, we're seeing a forecast that is not as robust as our budget. So Rich is preparing to implement several measures to work toward a balanced and solid financial result for the year. They're going to be hard and challenging to do. There is still a strong focus on our budget to make sure we spend money on marketing to drive our message for those people who are out there who want to travel, feel a need to come to Winston-Salem and Forsyth County and spend their money. I don't know if Rich, if you want to address anything else about that, but I think we have a first step plan. Hopefully it's a plan that gets us in a really good place and we don't have to revisit the discussion.
Yeah, John, you know, we'll take the action item we have to do is very simple formality. We can do that when I wrap this up. I don't want to lose this flow. So why don't we go to the first slide? Let me start as a continuation of John's comment, and first just confirm with all of you how we believe we ended fiscal year 1920. You have in front of you the occupancy tax receipts. Again, I'll keep this remind you that we believe these numbers are pretty much in line with where we'll be. They're not audited yet, obviously. But we believe we will come in just about at $3.2 million in total occupancy tax receipts, which is a little bit more than what we had projected and presented to the board. Really, the bottom line here with this slide is that we did end last fiscal year with a fund balance of $918,000. So that was positive, and that's a little more than we had presented to the board. Can we go to the next slide? With revenue coming in those numbers, this is where we are forecasting the budget from fiscal year 1920 to end. Bottom line is, again, there you see the $918,000 in fund balance remaining. We projected $800,000 in fund balance when we presented the budget to the board. So we ended up doing better in that regard. I'll remind the board that we are using $290,000 of that fund balance for fiscal year 2020-21, so the year we are currently in, which means we still have in fund balance $628,000 that's still there protected. So that's pretty much how we think we ended last fiscal year. What I want to talk about now is about the current fiscal year. And as John indicated, since we presented the budget back in June and really locked in the revenue line, really by the end of May for the Finance Committee in June, quite a few things have happened, and not the least of which most of all of our fall convention business fell off the books. That, in concert with the governor pushing back some of the openings, we did have to go back in, reforecast our revenue projections, and then also reforecast exactly how we were going to spend and where we were going to make the cuts. This was reviewed at length and in detail with the Finance Committee last week, and it was given the direction to move forward. But I wanted to present to the full board what we're planning to do and what our new projections are. And just remind the board that we are monitoring and managing our expenses and forecasts every week. We get the STAR report every week, and we will share with the board an update on our forecast for bed tax revenue every month at the board meeting and where we are as it relates to our expenses. So you will be kept in the loop at every board meeting. With that said, real quick, I just wanted to share just a couple of quick slides, just showing you this. The blue is last year, March, April, May, and June, July. The orange is what happened this year. As you can see, the middle of March started falling apart with COVID-19. April was turned out to be the worst month, and we have seen, and August will be the same, a slow, but at least continuing step up in the direction of occupancy tax revenue. So but albeit slow, it's going to be a long recovery ahead of us. Next slide. So we did all types of modeling. We analyzed history. We basically wiped away all consideration of the factor of having convention business on the books for the rest of this fiscal year. We've taken a very, very conservative, you've heard me say that before, but very conservative approach. And we looked at how we're pacing the last 4 months since COVID. We put that all together. We looked at the last 12 months of occupancy tax receipts without any COVID influence, and that's what you see on that first column, $113 million in revenue. Based on our projections and analytics, we are projecting roughly we'll come in at about 50%, 52% total revenue. With that said, our occupancy tax collections for the TDA will be roughly $2.2 million, which means we had to go back into the budget and reduce expenses by about $700,000, which we had done. Again, we're early enough in the year that we feel comfortable with this number at this point in the middle of August. We're monitoring it, and we have, if you will, 10 more months if we have to make changes in any direction. So that's where we are. Let me now share with you the budget on how this year's fiscal budget looks. You see our new projection of $2.2 million in revenue from occupancy tax and $290,000 in fund balance, as I said earlier. So roughly a budget of almost $2.5 million in total. Again, that's roughly 50% of our budget a year ago. With that said, in terms of our reductions, we reduced the personnel line by 21%. We reduced the purchase property services, which are trade shows and conventions that we go to. Frankly, we are not going to be doing any trade shows for this whole calendar year, and hopefully we'll be able to get back into some of those next spring. With the other purchase services, that's always our largest line after personnel. That's where all our advertising, marketing, sales, public relations, contract printing, contract graphics, and all those things to help drive people to Winston-Salem. We reduced that line by 20% as well. Travel has been obviously down. That just really, to some extent, has happened organically. If people aren't traveling to come here, we're not traveling to go to meetings or conferences either. We are traveling within the state. We are going to Raleigh and keeping in touch with those customers in Charlotte. But there really has been no travel. Our staff is probably not going to get on a plane until after the first of the year. We cut back on some materials and supplies, which is basically just office supplies and things like that. Other operating costs, there again, that was reduced by 50%. Of course, we've canceled trade shows. Now we're not doing promotions that are associated with those trade shows. We would normally do a client reception at a trade show. So a lot of those things have, fell off the chart. Also, FAM tours that we would have done in the past, entertaining customers, be it travel writers or meeting planners that would be in town. That's not happening. We have had a couple of site inspections with clients. We've done them in a socially distancing procedure, but we've only had a couple. We've not had nowhere near the number of customers that we've had in the past. And on the final line, the other operating CSS, which we reduced that by 47%, 150,000 to 80,000. That's just because of conventions that have canceled that we're going to be getting some assistance have in fact have canceled. So that $80,000 right now is for groups that are planning to still come, basically mostly in the spring, anytime after the new calendar year. So we'll be monitoring that as well. Our hope is to have, frankly, we're going to want to hope to have to spend all that money. That means those groups came. That would probably be a positive thing. But that's that reflects our expenses that we had to reduce to keep the budget in balance. Again, we're spending will be down to about $2.49 million at this point. We'll monitor it on a monthly basis and brief the board at each board meeting. That's the update, Mr. Chairman. I'll answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions or questions of understanding of what we're doing? Hearing none. Appreciate that. And Rich and Jennifer and Marquita and Christian, thank you. Trying times make people stronger. So you guys are the strongest people in the room. But, you know, I guess what I want to do now is let's move on to the discussion, because one of the things we really need to be doing is figuring out, as I told Rich the other day, revenue solves all woes in every kind of business, whether it's the county or the city, whether it's an institute of higher education or a hotel or restaurant. So we really want to get to the point where we're having some discussion and thinking about how do we strategize bringing spend to our community. So other than that, so Rich, we have I guess for the chair's point, we have a motion that we need to make to approve funding for our audit report, I believe is the item.
Yes, we have to amend fiscal year budget for the fiscal year 20 budget for the fiscal year 19 annual audit contract, which is about $5,000. The money's already been moved. Paul had mentioned it at a past meeting. Frankly, the only thing we didn't do was make a motion because it has to be reflected in the minutes. Something we do every year. Our audit's usually done in October after the fiscal year has ended. So we need basically I need someone, Mr. Chairman, to make a motion to amend fiscal year 20 budget for the fiscal year 19 annual audit contract.
So moved.
And Rich, that'll need to be an amendment to this year's budget, because you can't amend the budget that's already over.
Okay. Okay. We will do it. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Ceci, do we have that language right? So it's reflected in the minutes. Do you have that figured out?
You know what? Actually, with Paul on, I would defer to Paul to give us the appropriate language for the motion. If you would, Paul, I'd appreciate it.
I think what you would do was appropriate that, was it $5,080 from fund balance?
So we
From the
want,
current fund balance.
For the current fund.
Pardon me?
From the current fund balance.
From the current fund balance, yeah, which is not finalized yet, but I think you've got plenty of room to do that.
right.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Mr. McIntosh, do I have a second?
Second, Chair.
Mr. Eady, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? CJ, I love your emoji. Thank you. So moved. So Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to let the board know that we are in the hospitality industry right now is in a little, I guess, a hard press with the governor's office in trying to get some positive signals out there as it relates to conferences and meetings. We continue to work with the North Carolina travel and tourism industry. We are also working with North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association, along with a number of other organizations, to continue to lobby and talk with the governor. We did, as you see on the screen here, we did get an email from Restaurant and Lodging Association, which we have distributed to all of our hotels and attractions to reach out to the governor and ask to move forward with considering moving in a position where we start under proper protocol, getting meetings and conferences to come back we're hoping to get something done, at least some announcement made, even if it's phase 2.5 at the September 11th update. One of the things that I was on a meeting this week with the Restaurant Lodging Association and the Coalition, both of which are our lobbyists with the governor. We're trying to move away from talking about mass gatherings. That seems to make him, the governor, concerned. We're trying to have a dialogue about meetings and explain to him that meetings are different. They're not just mass gatherings. Meetings are organized professionally. They are actually contracted pieces of business between the customer and hotels and venues in town. We know who the organizing organization is. We know who we're contracting with. They actually know who their attendees are by name. So it's a far more organized gathering of people under a professional environment versus just, if you will, what a mass gathering is. So we're trying to change some of the semantics with him to get him a little bit more comfortable. There is a hard push going on right now. I have been talking with, pardon me, and working with Calvin McGray at what was the chamber, now the Greater Winston-Salem Inc., who's their government relations person, who's helping us with some of this as well and using some of his leverage from the business community. So just know there are a number of things going on really daily with communication to Raleigh and to the governor to see if we can get some of the some softening in the approach to meetings and conferences. I'm not sure what will happen come September 11th, but we will continue to keep you up to speed on that progress. With that said, let me turn it over to Christian, talk to you a little bit about what's going on the convention side, what we're hearing from customers, and what business does look like, at least further out. Christian.
Thanks, Rich. So just some sales activity reports since we started this fiscal year on July 1st. As Rich, just to kind of piggyback, obviously in terms of meetings, those are difficult to do right now. So our annual AANC meeting, we actually participated in virtually. It was the first time that event was done. This gives us an opportunity to stay in front of the meeting planners and association executives that we have as clients that bring annual conventions to us, as well as executives and meeting planners that we're talking to for future pieces of business. Rich mentioned we are doing a few site visits. We did a site visit and planning meeting with the American Blind Bowling Association for their 2022 annual meeting. That event is actually the state chapter will be going to speak at their meeting this year to talk about hosting that event in Winston-Salem. It was very positive. It would be predominantly in both in downtown area using the Twin City Quarter, but also using a bowling alley for some of their events as well. And that would also lead to a rather large board meeting in fall of 21. So you actually get 2 meetings there with one program. We collaborated with the Greater Winston-Salem Inc. to submit a letter of intent regarding the possible relocation of USA Field Hockey. Their headquarters currently is in Colorado Springs, but there's discussion about opening that up and maybe moving to a different area of the country. We certainly feel like our climate here in North Carolina is a great advantage for us, and we certainly have some great facilities that could be used for that program, and also relocating the leadership team here. It certainly would enhance our opportunity to do more field hockey events in the future and grow sports tourism. Speaking of sports ETA was the trade show that we do annually in April. Because of COVID, it was postponed. And in August, they decided to do a virtual meeting as well. They actually have scheduled different elements of their conference throughout the month of August, including appointments. So throughout the month, Bonnie Burnett, our senior sports sales manager, has been meeting with different events rights holders. We've already received 2 RFPs, as you can see there, for a convention for the U.S. Collegiate Athletic Association. And then we're also have received an RFP for the National Collegiate Table Tennis, which is actually a competition that they would do for a future year there as well. We obviously have a lot of facilities that could be used for that championship, but one of the ones that could be considered, I wanted to provide an update, if I could, briefly on Rise. RISE is the indoor multi-court facility right next to BB&T Sports Park. And that facility, these pictures are a couple weeks old, has broken ground. We anticipate them opening in June of 21, and they will start taking reservations in September. So really excited about that. Indoor facility, about 100,000 plus square feet, multiple courts in there. It can be used obviously for basketball and volleyball, but things like table tennis would work in there as well. So it really kind of enhances our opportunity to go after alternate sports and provide another new facilities that we can promote for our community. Also wanted to just briefly touch on COVID rebookings. I know we've talked a lot about a lot of the business that has been lost, especially with the fall convention calendar, but we're continuing to work on finding new alternate dates for the future. To date, we've got 12 signed contracts for about 3,000 hotel rooms with an economic impact of over $3.3 million. Of those 12, 7 of those have signed contracts for this fiscal year. So those are pieces of business that are rebooked for the first and second quarter of 2021. So really excited about getting those on the books, and the team is continuing to talk with both sports events rights holders and planners on their future programs and trying to get those rebooked, as well as booking new events into the future moving forward. We do have a few things still in the works for this fall too that I hope to share in a little more detail at next month's meeting with regards to lacrosse, some outdoor competitions that we're looking at bringing during our upcoming fiscal year. And that is my sales report, unless there's any questions.
It's nice to see the rise really happen.
It's very exciting.
It really is. It's been planned for so long, so it's nice to see it happening.
And the goal, Rob, would be as soon as we can get customers in town and feeling comfortable, we want to bring in and do a FAM, with the sports organizers. Akita?
Sure. On the marketing and communication side, and Rob, hop in here if we can be the tag team on this conversation and overview as well. But on the, we are in the throes right now of developing our fallback hotel getaways campaign. Again, this is an integrated and strategic campaign that talks about all the things that you can do in the COVID-19 environment that we're in, and is working to drive overnight hotel bookings for this fall, September through November. We're supporting the marketing messaging of that. Literally met yesterday to work out the e-newsletter storylines for the 45,000 subscribers that we have. Again, pushing the different ways that you can visit and understand and appreciate and fall in love with Winston-Salem and why you're compelled to spend time here, especially in the fall, highlighting our different partners, including outdoor adventure, culinary, again, all of the pillars. We're working with our folks at Our State Magazine. They're also helping us. This is, again, the grant that they were giving to advertisers that we were a recipient of. We're also supporting these hotel getaways and throughout September, October, and mid-November on fall getaways on our social media platforms, all of them, including Instagram as well as Facebook, working with our hotel partners and the different attractions to also participate in the social media platform push as well. And of course, we're displaying it, or will be displaying it, beginning September 7th on our brand new visitwinstonsalem.com. So it'll be certainly highlighted, bringing multiple ways for consumers and visitors to the website to connect with the experiences as well as direct with the hotels to book their visits. We are also the recipients of a full page in Orlando magazine as well as Atlanta magazine. Again, these were given to us for the by the partners that we work with, because we are and have been such loyal advertising partners that when they have an opportunity for us to slip in where they don't have a page filled, they are actually allowing us to partner with them in that regard. So we're very excited about that support that we're getting with them, and every bit helps. Anything else on that? Again, on the PR side, we are working with our Hayward PR team to develop virtual media tours. Again, this is something that is in concept, so I'd love your input on this as well. But again, the overall objective is that since we cannot bring the media here on the robust level that we had been, again, if you recall from previous meetings, we traditionally bring in 35 to 55 actual media in market to tour and, if you will, test drive the market. So that's just not going to happen in the COVID-19 environment. So we're coming up with ways that we can still give a media mission and a tour of all of the different story opportunities and angles, and this is through the virtual media tours. Again, we are working on the outdoor adventures, the history, culinary, Moravian culinary, all of the traditional story ideas, except with the known factor that there may be some COVID-19 restrictions on some of the travel, and some of that conversation will be in there. Again, the idea is to work with regional as well as in-state media outlets who have an immediate or short-term turnaround. So again, this too can, this tactic and strategy also helps to support the bookings for the fall getaways as well as the historic holidays, which we'll talk about in another meeting and touch on just briefly today. But again, the invitation list will be, again, in-state, regional, digital bloggers will certainly be a part of the makeup and the invitation for this as well as TV and radio heavily. Okay. Also, just to let you know that we did request with the county to receive some support for tourism industry marketing. We submitted a strategic and integrated marketing plan to support leisure as well. Again, and all of the monies had to be used by December 31st of this year for it to be eligible. In some ways, we would be adding and augmenting existing marketing initiatives as well. Again, the difference with the CARES Act marketing support and marketing plan is that it must include the specific safety and safety measures and the protocols as it relates specifically to COVID-19 and how to stay safe and how to assure that your staff as well as your visitors that you're attracting will remain safe as well. That's why for every initiative that we're going to show you in just a little bit, that each of those executions, whether they be digital, whether they be audio, whether they be print, all include the Count on Me and See messaging as well. So yes, thank you to Gloria for certainly making us aware of this opportunity as well. So again, let's just take a quick look at the different strategic and integrated tactics. Again, we'll go over this quickly. Rob and I have reviewed this, and we do want to have a marketing committee meeting later in September so we can check in on this and modify in any way. But again, it's a real mix, as you'll see from the tactics. Heavy on digital, for sure, because again, that's the most flexible, the most trackable, the most nimble, and the most adaptable too. Since again, it's strategic based on what we know about the traditional visitor to Winston-Salem, again, that it's an in-state or a regional, meaning Atlanta or Greenville-Spartanburg markets. But again, in COVID-19, I think we need to really monitor on a heightened basis who's coming to the website and what their behaviors are once they are on the site as well. Again, we want to meet the leisure traveler where they are, and they're in a different place than they've ever been. We all are. Again, let's go through from September to December. You can see that each of these is going to support not the summer campaign, but the fall campaign as well. Again, it's a mix of social, it's a mix of, you can go to the next one, it's a mix of email, it's a mix of website on our paid media, targeted media. Again, there's some placements with Our State Magazine because of their deep reach into and loyal following into the state of North Carolina. Again, we're deploying through UNC and WFAE radios. Again, highlighting the different things to do while you're here in the fall. The connected TV that we had on there too, just if you that again was something that was a holdover and a rollover from our buy with Visit and See last year. So again, it is not something that we're buying, it's something that we had a pause on and had already invested in through Visit and See, and they are working with us to allow us to run it when we can, when we need to, again. So we can unpause when we ask them to. All right, last but not least, this will then also segue into the historic holiday push as well and support all of the opportunities that we're talking about, how you can spend your holidays here in Winston-Salem. If anybody has any questions, any updates, Rob and I have already had a chance to talk about maybe some modifications to this. Again, this is outline, if you will, and again, I think the particular takeaway on this is that this is flexible and needs to be nimble according to, again, what's going on in the market, because we know it changes from day to day. Any questions?
I have a question for our hotel members. You put that the image up, please. A lot of what we're trying to do is a lot of it is digital, social, some advertising. But is there any way for us, hotels, to provide us with zip codes of where their guests are staying, where the guests are coming from? You know, to a large extent, other than contracted and some transient business, you know, much of it's hotel is leisure related right now. Understanding better where people are coming from, you know, we're to a large extent we're confident most of it is in state or immediate surrounding states. But if we even just were able to identify zip codes of out-of-town guests that are staying in hotels, it may to some extent help us shape where we're headed to. We go back on things like that, but maybe there's a spike in coming out of the south. I'm just curious, is that something that's doable?
Rich, from my group, yeah, we can pull feeder cities, no problem, any given day of the week. Yeah, that's an easy thing for us to do from my Hilton.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And maybe Rob, you can lead that charge from a marketing perspective of collecting data. We do know, I think anecdotally, that we see a lot of Midwest to beach traffic, and we see strong weekends. And that might be, while it might not be useful data today, it might be useful data as we look at, you know, May, June of next year. So yeah, Rob, if you can lead that effort and try and collect some kind of data, I think that would be great to have, because we do have a lot of out-of-state folks passing through.
We do, and I'll work on that, and then I'll share it with the board.
Thank you, Rob. I would just, you know, I would just say to Gloria, I know somebody chatted in the room, but Gloria, we really appreciate the county's help, because this is money that we don't have to cut from somewhere else. This is money that can help us. And I think from a hotelier standpoint, you know, this is really targeted at what we think is short-term, non-business opportunity, which I think that's where our income opportunity presents itself for the next couple of months. So Marquita, thank you for putting that plan together, and kudos to Gloria. Pass that on to your colleagues on the county commission. Greatly appreciated.
And just so you know, on the zip code as well, with the website and the targeted media and display ad campaign that we're running too, we will have a robust snapshot on a day-to-day basis of who's looking and looking at us and kind of get a better feel for geographically who's coming from where as well. And again, we traditionally put those together. Normally this would have been through a lodging report that we would have done with our research teams. Again, we won't be able to do that, but we can actually certainly work and create our own research flights as well. So be interesting to see.
All right.
I do have one, talking of marketing, I do have one other comment, and it's in concert with getting the marketing committee together too. The state Visit North Carolina does have some resources, upwards of $10 million set aside, that they are planning to set up some type of a co-op credit with local TDAs. So application for those funds, or to get access to those funds, is being developed. Once we have the application, we can get a better understanding of what they're looking for. We do know it has to be a totally new campaign of some type, but its priority has to be talking about why Winston-Salem is a safe environment with proper protocols in place to come and visit. So once we have that information in hand, we are going to have to put together a proposal. I know Marquita has mentioned, I know she's talked to Rob about getting the committee together, marketing committee together in September. Rob, this will probably be something that we put on the agenda to have a conversation about early on, so we get the committee's input on what might be, again, because it has to be a totally new, if you will, kind of campaign. We can keep with brand, but it still has to be a little bit different messaging. It'll be something to put on the agenda for that meeting as well.
All right, thank you, Christian and Marquita, for that. Finance report, Paul, are you still with us?
I am with you.
Do you have any wonderful words of
Last
wisdom?
year is still under audit. I would say that most of what Rich has reported to you is fairly accurate. We are just starting to get July funds in, so I don't have anything to report on the new year. We should have a report and hopefully the audit report at your next meeting.
Do you have any collection concerns?
Not so far. We've
Awesome.
had some questions from people about, can't we change the due date, and that's set by state statute, and we've tried to be polite on all of those. But what people have to understand is that money never belongs to the facilities. It belongs to the state and then the county.
Yep.
And so we kind of politely explain that each time.
We like polite CFOs.
I have a polite staff.
Yes, you do. I appreciate them. They were
I mean,
helpful.
I appreciate what hard times it is. We're trying to be as good as we can, but there are just things we can't do to help.
Yep. I appreciate that. So keep us posted if you express concerns, but we look forward to hopefully a year-end closeout maybe in September.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other business before the board? Any of our guests care to share? We did a commercial for Sarah at the beginning of the meeting for anthropology. Are there any other, anyone else care to share while we have the floor? I don't see anyone coming off of mute.
I can give an update. Well, not much of an update, but all of our other attractions that are not currently open are further on hold with the governor's orders. So that's where the rest of AVA stands, pretty much, is waiting for that to hopefully change sometime soon and allow them to reopen.
Yeah, I spoke with Allison Perkins at Renolda House just the other day. Their hope is that September 11th brings change. And she thinks she has about a 2 or 3 week ramp up window. So at earliest, the 5th or 6th of October, we could have the Renolda House Museum of American Art reopen. So hopefully that comes.
Yes, I think Kerner's Folly definitely in the same boat as Historic House. Old Salem really concentrating on their virtual stuff with the Salem Pathways project. So I know that they're putting a lot into that.
Okay.
And Sarah, you should know that, and I had communication with Allison Perkins this week, back and forth on a few things. But know that at the North Carolina Travel and Tourism Coalition meeting and Restaurant and Lodging Association meetings, both board meetings, museums specifically were mentioned as part of the ongoing conversation with the governor. So it's the full gamut of tourism amenities that is being discussed with the governor.
That's great. I'm sure they will be pleased to know that. So we'll pass that along to the group.
Thank you, Sarah. Ben, I see you've joined us off of mute. Do you have anything to share from the city manager's office?
Well, I wish it could be good news, but I did just want to, inform everybody, if you haven't, read in the last couple of weeks, that the city did cancel the Carolina Classic Fair for 2020. We are brainstorming ideas to hold kind of a virtual fair experience during that week, and we're kind of looking at all ideas. No idea is a crazy one, and so we may have drive-through fair food vendors. If we continue our drive-in theater, which we've been operating here for the last, couple months into October, that we may show kind of fair-themed movies and sell fair food there. So we're still exploring ways that we could provide somewhat of a virtual fair experience for those who've always looked forward to coming to the Carolina Classic Fair. On the horizon, where we're now looking ahead to the ice season and just trying to contemplate what might happen with that, not just with the youth hockey and public skating, but really the biggest thing would be the Carolina Thunderbirds and what's going to happen with their season. So we're staying in touch with the league about that. So trying to figure out ways to hold events that are acceptable under the current restrictions. We also continue to hold the farmers market every Saturday, but we're kind of in a holding pattern as well.
Thank you for that. I know drive-through things as a citizen of our community, drive-through things are interesting and nice. I know the Dash has been doing some fun things, and I assume Marquita has those as the daily attractions and things to do in our community to get people out of their homes and to do things in a safe manner. Anyone else? Hearing none, I guess I want to just close as we talk about how to drive tax receipts and how to see our business rebound. I would be remiss if we didn't, take a moment to realize that there is a vulnerable part of our community that are our service worker champions who have worked every day to build our business and to take care of our visitors and our citizens in our restaurants and our hotels and our attractions. Many of them still struggle. Many of them are furloughed or laid off. As we talk to government officials and in Raleigh and whomever, let's figure out a way to get money for marketing, but let's not forget that we need to, in that same conversation, figure out how to rescue those folks as they struggle to pay their bills, pay their rent, and take care of their families, because it is a committed group of people that are struggling in a big way until we get our businesses back. So other than that, we have a meeting probably via Zoom next September. So anybody interested in hosting next September's meeting is welcome to. So we'll see you next September. I would look forward to a marketing meeting notification coming out so we can meet to talk about those things as well. And other than that, if there's no other business before the board, I will adjourn the August meeting of the TDA. And thank everybody for their energy and time.
Great to see everybody. Everybody be safe.
Thank you very much.
John, everybody take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.